Uh, Welcome to the inaugural SmartThings as not an independent company, but truly independent developer discussion. Um, we can talk a little bit about that topic if people are interested, and then there are probably a few more things that we can go over as far as official agendas go today. I don't have much, but I do have an idea of maybe talking a bit about some of the new devices that we are going to roll out at some point soon here as well. And I'll probably edit that out for when I post it, so it's just an exclusive for people on the call until we're official. But I want to keep encouraging people to join in and be on these calls. So. The last time we had one of these calls was actually a Smart App workshop 2 weeks ago, and that went really well. We had a full crowd, just about 24, 25 people on, and I think that was pretty successful. We'll continue to do those sorts of things, perhaps not in place of the call, but augmenting it or whatever on the off weeks. So, got good feedback on that. We're also back from a trip to Bay Area where we had an in-person Smart App workshop that was hosted by Highway One, which is PCH's hardware accelerator in San Francisco. PCH is one of the big companies involved with device manufacture and all sorts of logistics around hardware manufacturing, mostly over in China. So one of the good things about that meeting is we got a lot of people who are interested in devices. So probably have a separate workshop around device types and devices at some point in the future as well. For those of you who are shy or who are not tuned in with audio or video, you can chat questions in, and I'll try to check those chats here. It looks like Eves has asked a question about anything planned for the DC area. I think that we will plan on doing something in the DC area before the end of the year for as far as an in-person thing goes. So I think that's the plan. And then I'd like to also get one in the Midwest around Minneapolis as well. And then ultimately we'll roll them out to other cities and areas that we're not as geographically positioned, but we'll just bring people there. So, I think many of you have probably been on the community site thread surrounding the acquisition of SmartThings by Samsung. I did want to take questions about that. If there hasn't been questions answered enough, we can share more information. In general, I think that the whole founding team is really excited about it. I think that it was the only deal that we discussed with anyone who would have us remain as open as we are, and they have no indication that they're going to change anything. They want to give us the room and the resources to continue towards our goals, and that's really what was impressive to us and what we really wanted to do and achieve. Some of the other things that we talked about were going to be potentially distracting or wouldn't have been, we would have been merged into something potentially more. So I think this was actually the ideal deal for us that I saw. So does anyone have any questions about it? All right, it's a quiet crowd tonight. Let's see. Patrick, do you have anything? You were on mute for a second.
Well, yeah, I guess obviously Samsung has a big investment in Android. You guys seem to really give the iPhone quite a bit of love. Any goals you want to throw out there to try to create parity?
Well, yeah, I think we've never had the goal of complete parity between the two, but we want them to be equally good. We don't want one to be buggier than the other, obviously, but we think that each platform has its own strengths, and we plan to still continue to support both platforms. I think though, I think just by the fact that there's so many Android phones that Samsung sells, there will be probably more inclination for us to like get more resources on the Android team and on testing it. The Android development and QA just happens to take more resources and time, and I think that we have been just slow to like realize that and to like increase our team size around that. Right now, both mobile teams are the same size, and the QA team spends probably equal amount of time on both, but equal time doesn't sometimes cut it when you've got way more devices and different flavors of Android. And so I think both QA and Android development will get a boost. We would have probably done it anyways, given any more resources, but seeing as though these resources are coming from a company that sells more phones than almost anyone, maybe anyone, like I think that it'll just be good for us to do that. And we've got some unique opportunities because it's Samsung to like say, hey, maybe SmartThings is comes preloaded on the next version of their Galaxy phone or something like that. Like we haven't talked about that specifically, like hard and fast, like what would that be like? But just imagine rolling out to millions of potential customers. We want to make that be a very solid experience, not like we don't anyways, but we would want to even make it more, and then also improve the experience for people without hardware. Like what value could we give for someone who just downloads the app or uses the app without hardware? So that means trying to make mobile presence as solid as possible, and maybe adding in a few more features where you could connect some of your LAN devices or some other devices without a hub, just to do cloud to cloud type stuff. So yeah, I think I think that we'll work to get more than parity on Android. I think Android will get a lot more of attention. If for nothing else, then like I think everyone's going to have another phone too, it'll be a lot easier to just get another phone. They've already started to give us gifts. We all got Galaxy tablets. So,
oh yeah, you don't have a tablet app. Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, there you go. So tablet,
the first change, huh?
I think tablet apps are, we've always wanted to do something that's like custom for the tablet form factor, and so getting that closer will be better. Eves is asking questions in the side as well, and I'm hoping that some of this is answering some of your questions, Eves. And then someone also is chiming in, but I can't hear him, so I'll pause if someone wants to say something. I'm looking at you, 214. All right, maybe it's just background noise. So you had something other comment, Patrick?
Well, I'm curious. You said a couple things around Android. One, do you have any plans, or would you entertain the notion of actually using some of us from the community to actually test this before you actually roll it out? The current state of the application today is you reboot your phone goes away and comes back. It crashes, frankly, every 24 hours. It was a huge step backwards from the previous release, and that wasn't that stable to begin with. So I'm just curious if you have any plans now with Samsung, or even just trying to increase the stability of this app, which is at the heart of the ecosystem here. I've got presence issues up the wazoo. I can't use my Android phone whatsoever for a reliable presence.
Right. So just a couple of those points. First off, obviously our goal is to catch and squash, those sorts of like serious bugs right away. I think with the things you're experiencing, and we'd obviously have to check like specific device, specific OS, but those are like show-stopping sort of bugs that we don't normally want to allow through. So that that's something that we have to work on with our QA team, and by basically getting feedback from you, through the support channels and into the developer team. As far as beta testing goes, we have done beta testing programs in the past with, interested community members and whatnot. And so I believe we've kind of like let that program sort of like languish or whatever. We haven't, for the last release, that we didn't maybe do that as much. And so maybe with new builds that are out, I mean, because we've already got new test builds out, obviously, since your last one. Maybe we do open that back up to community folks. And what that really means for us, though, is we need to, right now we've been using like a Google form to like collect bug reports, and maybe that's good enough. We have recently switched over our bug tracking app to Jira, and we're looking at ways to like open up parts of Jira publicly so that people can submit bugs more easily or like see what bugs are in there. I don't know what the state of that is, but I'll definitely bring back the feedback that there are folks who want this Android builds to be solid and stable enough that they're willing to like be on the more cutting edge. I guess how how much worse could a beta version be if you're saying you've got crashes every day? So
yeah, I mean, the issue here that I have, and you brought up bug tracking. Every time it crashes, the app starts and says, the SmartThings app has crashed, and a log is sent to the developers. Is that just a line of code, or is that actually happening? Should I be submitting support tickets every time this happens here, or is it actually did you actually program in some logging?
It actually does happen. All that logging goes back to the developers, and they can use that data to like try to find basically similar situations where that happens. What would be helpful in addition to that is if you see any sort of pattern or commonality between when it crashes or why. If you just came back from having it backgrounded or something like that. Any additional feedback is obviously welcome, but those crash reports are all sent in for both OSs.
Hey, Ben and Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ben, this is Guy and Patrick. Are you talking about the apps on like Android phone or a tablet?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's the same app right now, right, Ben?
It is the same app, but I'm assuming that there are probably some differences in how it runs across different things, but it is the same app.
Okay, because I've had the app loaded on I have a LG G2, and I loaded it, when I got my unit 3, 4, 5 months ago, and it has yet to crash. It works great from anywhere I am.
Oh, the crash is seamless behind the scenes. When you start it back up, so it's the backgrounding process that's crashing, the one that actually tracks presence, and you can replicate it really easily. And I've already worked with Tyler on it. But just reboot your phone. If you're on the latest, I think 1.6.4, just reboot your phone. It will automatically mark you as away, and as the backgrounding process runs, it'll mark you as home. And so. I have to say the presence when the backgrounding process is running has been working a lot better, but it crashes, regularly, frequently. And it's not like I'm using a radical device. I'm using a Nexus 5 reference device. So, that should be the benchmark. Obviously it'd be nice for you guys to have Samsung reference phones, but this is latest operating system, latest, everything. So it is a known issue. But it just smacks of somebody who didn't test it, and like you had an iOS version being pushed out, and you wanted to get the Android version pushed out too, and it just seemed rushed.
I mean, yeah, that possibly could be. I know that the teams were working very hard to get like at parity, like you were mentioning, and there was perhaps even more external pressure than normal to close that gap. I mean, we were trying to close that gap for a long time, and even just for optics with the community, we want to get those to be like same day releases. But if you've been around software development, you know that like if you do arbitrary dates like that, like sometimes it just doesn't get things don't get done. So yeah.
And that would be my feedback is I don't care if you release them simultaneously. I care that it works. And as a developer myself, I'm okay with living with this. But if it ever wants to get to that wonderful wife acceptance factor, these things have to be tightened up. And that's the challenge right now is, I've got it hooked up to my Ubi just for testing, and randomly throughout the day, it'll announce that my phone has left when I'm here, and it's just the presence is just not reliable at this point on Android. From
I'll
my
have to play with mine some more then, because I haven't noticed that. I use when I'm away, it detects I've left the building and says, I've left, and when I come back, it says I'm here. But I've never noticed that mine ever crashed on home or
Right.
away, or goes out if I'm here, it says I'm away. But
We
I
know
don't
there
know.
are environmental factors too with presence detection, and it's just like a little bit more complex. But yeah, we definitely need to test it more and get it more solid. Yeah, I'm just hoping that like just in general presence detection, across mobile devices gets more solid. I know some of this is our work that we need to do. I think some of it hopefully will just get better and better with new devices and whatnot.
Well, and I think there are other avenues of presence detection. If you look at some of the things that Tasker has as an app, being able to detect Wi-Fi access points, what it's connected to. These are things that can really define that I'm in my home rather than, relying solely on GPS location too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how the Android phone does it, but I know that the iOS device does utilize Wi-Fi as well as GPS to determine presence.
Yeah, and the
Uh,
H. But what
I
I'm
think
saying
that
is you could use
on
cell
that
phone
point,
towers or even Bluetooth or anything to really, if you opened up the app to actually access some of that stuff that says, if I detect this Wi-Fi access point, consider me home.
yeah, then I think on that point, this is Gilbert, by the way, reading off the SSID, if it's the same SSID that you have at home, that we can tag that as present, being present and whatnot.
so do you know that? Do you know if the Android app takes into account Wi-Fi access, Gilbert?
No, I don't think it does, but that's a pretty neat idea that we haven't explored before, and I'll relay that back to Liz.
Well, I mean, I would expect that to be on the backlog, Gilbert, since it's in the iOS app. So I don't know. I guess yeah.
So this is actually a different method altogether, where you're not actually using.
Yeah, GPS could be off.
Using the actual name of the SSID rather than some type of triangulation or some type of geometry that's used in the other location services. You're actually reading the SSID.
Yeah, what would be perfect, in all honesty, what would be perfect is in your next iteration of a hub, put Bluetooth in it and just pair the phones to it.
Well, you're going to be happy with the next version.
See how I got that out of you?
Yeah. So all right, that's good feedback. I'll talk with Tyler when I see him tomorrow, just to like close the loop on some of the things that you've been working on and just get a sense. I mean, every week we have support roundup, which is like top 5 issues, and I think Android presence detection has been among the top 5 for weeks and weeks. And so it's not unknown. It's just a matter of like getting the right resources on it and moving. So, all right. I know Eves has a question about and I believe is Samsung buying SmartThings their response to HomeKit? I wouldn't say specifically it's their response to HomeKit, but it's certainly a response to the idea that they don't want to be behind in this realm. Like Nest and now Dropcam are with Google. You've got like Wink with the back, with GE's backing, and then who knows what Apple is going to be up to with HomeKit. At first it seems like it's a device certification program, but I think ultimately people think that there will be more to it than that, and that they'll be a player in this home automation space as well. So I think it's not directly a response to HomeKit. I know that the Samsung Apple feud gets played up quite a bit in the media, and I haven't been I have only met a couple dozen Samsung people, so I can't tell you that there's nothing to that or whatever else. But I will say that it hasn't come up in really our discussions. I think we still hope that like, we can be potentially, one of the devices in HomeKit universe, and that however HomeKit decides to like work, we might be able to do it. We really are like the opposite of Apple in that way. Like we want to be open and work with everything.
How about integrating a new camera? Instead of a drop cam, there's a new project on Kickstarter named Blink. Specifically, it's a wireless camera. It works separate from a base, and now the base has both free cloud capability and you can plug in a USB standalone hard drive locally.
Is this your project, Leo? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I wish it was.
Yeah, we should. We'll definitely look at it. I mean, we tend to have a wait and see attitude slightly for like Kickstarter, because it's hard to put a lot of effort into those things before A, they get funded fully, B, they start to ship and get some sort of a semblance of traction or whatever else. We're kind of focusing some of our energies on cameras that are already on the market, like Foscam and D-Link, but we're always kind of looking at new technologies, especially around cameras, since there's sort of a gap. And I don't know how much the Wink or the what's it called, Blink. I don't know how much the Blink camera is going for or plans to go for, but
it plans to go for $70 mark.
Yeah, that's a good mark.
So any chance that we're ever going to see streaming video on the topic of cameras here?
So I can tell you that the streaming video issue has been mostly one of hub processor. Being able to like stream video through the hub has been a little bit of an issue. If you go cloud to cloud, like maybe that's a way to do it. I would say that the short answer is yes, that we are looking at ways to get streaming into the app. I think there's a few other lower hanging fruits to solve around camera and imaging. First, like
persistence of images on Android,
or persisting them, allowing them to be stored and saved into your either your camera gallery or some other way.
Like sending an email with an attachment of the image. I mean,
there are all sorts of things. Email is a great way to extend the platform. Gilbert, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, actually, we're going to be doing. I think in the long run, we're going to be investing a lot of time into camera feeds. I think that's going to be an essential part of your home experience, and it really meshes in with a lot of different things. I think in the short term, I think one of the things that we want to do is find a solution or another camera solution that is very easy to onboard. As you guys know, and some of you guys already played with Softcam or D-Link or some others, they're rather hard to set up for a normal user. So one of the things that we want to do is find a camera solution that is both open but can be easily set up just like you set up a Z-Wave device. That's difficult right now. We have to find good partners on it. But once we get that in place, video streaming down the road, better viewing capabilities around that, and there's going to be solutions down the road where it's not going to be just taking a picture and opening up your Things view to see it. That's not how we ideally want your pictures to be displayed. I think that down the road you can get a notification that your front door is open and take a picture, and when you swipe on that notification, that you get immediately brought up to that image and really see what's going on live. I think that's going to be in our next few quarters that we'll have that kind of capability.
I mean, the perfect use case that I do with my other home automation system is doorbell press, pops up on my video screen, sends me an email, actually sends me a text message with the attachment of the front door camera, which is a Panasonic camera. So I know exactly within a few seconds who's at the front door. Right now this is impossible to do within SmartThings. But have you thought about, when we look at the preference pages, I can stream in another web page. Why can't you give us just an HTML tile to use to just pull up a direct, RSTP stream or an HTML stream of the camera?
So specifically on the HTML final part. I think that that's something that we intend to build out as a screen that a developer can create on their own. So that is actually something that we're looking into.
Okay.
Beyond looking into. Yeah, we will have that kind of capability. Extending beyond that, I'm not sure how to best answer the remainder of your question.
Well, in terms of the HTML, tile, I think that is like something that I don't know if saying it's on the roadmap is right. I actually think it's further along than that. I think that there are ways to do it if you have core API access, but we obviously are not giving everyone core API access right now. Our idea is to, allow a greater flexibility within the tile interface, not just choosing like, 1, 2, 4 tiles in a display, but actually what comes through into that display. I'm not quite technical enough to go into the details about that yet, and I don't know if anyone on here is. But I don't know. Gilbert, go on mute when you're not, and you better not be on your motorcycle when you're talking on this. All right. I've been seeing some chats come through. Let me just catch up here. So, Taryn, what is your question? You don't have to be a jerk if we've already covered it. Just type your questions in, and we'll try to answer them. All right. Looks like support is trying to join off and on. I don't know who from support. Tyler, there it is. Hi, Tyler. Tyler Lang. I don't know if that's who you've been working with, Patrick, or if it's Tyler Hall. Probably Lang. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's like, yeah.
So what other? Here we go. A few other questions here. Does anyone have any other questions? I guess right now about anything that we've talked about thus far, or things we haven't talked about. Love to hear more things and more feedback and ways that we can make SmartThings better. New, cheaper water valves, that was mentioned by Tyler. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, we've had one. So there's the Fortress one that's still quite spendy, I believe. And we've had one that's from Waxman that we've actually integrated months ago. I actually did a video of it in my own house. I had it trigger and everything. It was really great. I think the price point is, it's sub $200. I know, I'm not positive. I think it's $150 maybe. But they haven't released it yet. I don't know what their holdup is. Why it's not out there, but it's a Z-Wave valve and it works great.
Post a link on the chat when you have a chance, man.
A link to the Zigbee valve. Oh, it's Zigbee, Tyler. Tyler's telling me it's Zigbee. Well, that's even better. Tyler, I'll ask you to post a link to that if you can find it. I'm going to continue to look at questions. Eves is asking about new devices. All right, I can go into this and see how much I have to edit later. It's actually not that secret, but we are creating new versions of our devices, the ones that we sell and market as SmartThings, like SmartSense Motion, SmartSense Multi, Smart Power Outlet, all those sorts of things. Many of them will look or will function similarly, but there are some key differences in them. For example, as I alluded to on the boards this week, the motion sensor will come with some brackets in the back that'll actually work better for mounting the unit. It'll have temperature sensing built into it, but it will not have USB power as a part of it. It'll be battery powered, but we think that the battery life will be better. We think that the reporting frequency will be better, and all in all, I think it's going to be a fairly solid device. We're creating a standalone open-close sensor, so it's like the multi, but it doesn't have quite the functionality of the multi. There's a number of reasons for that. This is probably the most controversial of them ones, but like it'll have, I think, temperature. And Tyler, you should jump in if you. Oh, there you go. You posted to the valve. I'm not positive on like what all the sensors are in each of the devices. That's kind of like something that I was planning on getting ready, but I think
I can
almost.
comment on if there's
All right,
any.
Gilbert, go.
What specifically did you want me to comment on?
Well, just comment on each of the new devices. So open close sensor.
Yeah, so there's basically 4 new sensors coming out. Ben already spoke about the motion one. All 4 sensors will also have temperature built in, so that comes standard with all of them. The other ones are
We
going
believe
to be.
temperature sensing will be more accurate without augmentation, but we also are releasing, I think tomorrow, the ability to change plus or minus on temperature sensors. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So there's going to be a temperature offset within your premises if you go to the things tile. So 4 sensors: motion, which Ben talked about, humidity, open close, and water or leak.
Yeah, moisture sensor is getting a pretty good overhaul.
Yeah. The one thing that I think Ben said there's somewhat controversial is that we don't have accelerometer in any of the new sensors. So we will continue to sell and carry the current multi-sensor for the people that want to mount the multi on a garage door or whatnot. There's still use cases that aren't covered with our new ones. Yeah, Tyler just posted on there.
And Greg, I am also with you and your sentiments on this one. I think we need to address the accelerometer issue in a better way, but the multi will still be available, as Tyler is mentioning there.
Yeah, and I think later on we might have one in the same form factor. That's going to be a accelerometer. I can see that happening. On the valve one, I don't know if you guys talked about Eve or if the Eve Irrigation Center has been kind of talked about. They just launched their Kickstarter, and that's going to be built off the SmartThings platform. So that might be a solution that you guys might want to look into. I've seen it in person, or I've seen the unit in person, and pretty impressed. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the smart apps and some of the things that he'll leverage SmartThings to do.
And it doesn't specifically have a standalone valve other than like as it hooks up to existing irrigation systems. But yeah, it is a cool project that did just launch, and it's kind of like a first for us in that it's totally based on SmartThings and it's reliant on SmartThings actually. So it's kind of a gamble for that guy, but I think it's really cool.
Hey, Ben and Gilbert.
Yes.
Yep.
This guy. Is there any provision in the future to, rather than just make it sort of a black box turnkey item, like I'm using the Arduino, I just started that because I have a farm where I live, and it's basically controlling the whole thing, feeding the animals, filling their water, whatever. I have your Arduino shield, but it really only does one thing. It sends it on or off, and that's basically, it. Is there any way to implement the X or the Z-Wave somehow to get it? Is what I did. I bought some Iris at Lowe's, which uses Zigbee. They're little smart switches that also give a reading of how much wattage and everything. And I've implemented that in the Arduino code in some Python that basically turns stuff off and on, because I'd use that to replace the X10 stuff that's totally unreliable. But it would be nice to be able to have some provision in Z-Wave, since I have the SmartThings, to be able to send a command like to an Arduino, turn on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or different ports on the Arduino on that shield. I know it's kind of a step back for somebody like Patrick that's doing advanced stuff out there, but a lot of my stuff's still hardware level, and that's where I was trying to get down to the nuts and bolts.
I think the first thing is I'm not quite understanding the specific use case of what you're trying to control with your Arduino, but I would highly recommend kind of posting on the community forum, if you haven't already, just a brief idea of what your project is, and we can all chime in and kind of help out as we can. I think there also may be other solutions out there, the Mimo Lite one, which we're still working on certifying, is possibly something that you can use as a relay, and also I think it also takes in a sensor. I don't think it gives you values. It's a Boolean, either on or off. But that's something that you can possibly use.
Well, Boolean, would be fine if you could just have more than just one. But when I originally talked to somebody in support, when I got my first put my system together, they sent me an email, welcome, but I explained that I was using the Iris switch, which is Zigbee, basically the Zigbee switch, to turn off and on through the Arduino. And they said, well, we've been trying to do that. How'd you do that? So I sent them code up to the tech people. It should be somewhere up there of how I implemented it. But
yeah, share with the community. I think that you'll get a much wider audience that are more specifically to address, like, to help out the community. We're all pretty on there, and we all want to help each other out. I think that's a good forum for you to kind of ask your questions and for us to help out. And even though I'm internal, I would rather kind of have you post it and have you share with it so that other people can learn from it as well too.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to figure one turnkey thing that could put Zigbee, XBee, everything all together is one, solution.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm more of a hardware guy than a software guy, so that's.
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think that the best way to start is to just define what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll try to help you out in finding a solution for you.
Yeah, I'll have to write up a definition so it's very specific rather than just throwing something out there.
Yeah, I understand.
I have a question on that.
All right.
So, Guy, I was going to say, Guy, are you wanting to actually have a Z-Wave module with relays, or you want to have a Zigbee device, or essentially the Arduino shield, also be able to interpret Z-Wave? Is that what you're asking for? I'm kind of unclear on, because you kind of threw the same two terms in the same bucket.
Yeah, well, it's what it started with is using the Zigbee device, the Iris, but it's Zigbee, because I wanted to replace an X10 module with more reliability. And then the byproduct is I get how much wattage that particular device is using. But then I might want to be able to, feed the animals, fill up their water tank. In other words, do a myriad of different solutions that you might want to send by your Android app. Say, okay, turn this, if this event happens, feed the animals, fill the water, and I have the Arduino shield because I was trying to interface some way between Z-Wave and Zigbee and Arduino.
Yeah, I think
that's the only way I could figure that I could cross all three of them.
I don't know if it's going to be worth your trouble of actually trying to implement an X10 connection to the Arduino shield.
No. X10 is gone. That's
okay. I was hoping you're not trying to bring that back.
No. The Zigbee was replacing the X10 with a reliable.
Yeah. So our Arduino shields are Zigbee. And I don't know if you've seen it already, but there's a tutorial out there. Ben probably can dig for it, but we have a pet feeder Arduino shield tutorial that basically one of our previous engineers hacked a pet feeder and allowed it to be controlled via SmartThings. And I think that there's a lot of useful code in there that you may be able to use. I think you mentioned a few use cases that kind of overlap that.
Yeah, because I saw that and it just showed a demo. Okay, I pushed the button and it fed the dog, and here goes, it shows you the food dropping.
There's
there
code
wasn't
out there.
There's code?
Yeah, there's code out there. I'll try to hunt it down.
Okay, well, I'll send an email to support or someplace so somebody can point me in, because right now what I have up, I don't see any links or anything, so I guess that's on the website or the community forum.
Yeah, if I can find it before the call ends, then I'll post it out there.
Well, if I can make a suggestion, one of the things I've used in the past, Fortress makes this thing called a multiple input, multiple output module, and I think they go up to four outputs, essentially 4 relays, and then it'll take 4 inputs. And I'm not exactly sure if that was just TTL, 5-volt level, or if it was actually a A to D kind of thing. But I've used that in the past for garage door controlling and opening gates and things, and they're reasonable. They actually got one called the Lite, the MIMO Lite. I think it's just 1 input and 1 output, and I think they've got one that goes up to 4 inputs and outputs. But that's a Z-Wave device. It's all kind of just plug and play. It looks like a multi-switch and a multi-sensor, I think, as far as the device types.
Yeah, now I can understand, Steve. Input and output's not the problem from Z-Wave. I can get there. I'm just trying to cross between Z-Wave, Zigbee, and Arduino code or Python, something that's going to be like a central computer running everything that sends out this command. Okay, it's 5 o'clock, feed the animals, and 6 o'clock, fill their water tank. I'm just using examples.
Yeah. So
without actually being on a Z-Wave type, making an app for it, but interfacing with some other kind of hardware.
Yeah, I think the best way is to leverage it as a smart app. So you create smart apps, or even probably reuse some of the ones that are existing out there that will be on a schedule, and you can control it that way. That way you're really being able to keep the Arduino as inputs and outputs and all the controls on the SmartThings platform, and you'll be able to expand that a little bit easier. On the chat, I posted the link for the pet feeder. So there's a link in there. You can download the SmartThings Arduino library here. Click on that, and there's a few examples. Actually, it's one of the further links down.
I guess I've got to get to the chat. I don't even have the chat up or whatever.
It's over on the right-hand side. There's basically 3 little icons at the top, and one of them is chat. There'll be a few links in there you'll be able to check out.
There we go. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Sitting here half asleep.
Hey, Ben, I wanted to say thanks for the Smart Apps walkthrough a couple weeks ago. That was really helpful. I learned a lot from it, and I would recommend anybody watch that video, because if you're really looking to develop smart apps, that was a great starter. A lot of topics came up towards the end of there around IDE improvements and stuff. Is there anything that you can share as to when that stuff might actually start to come to fruition here?
Well, I think part of the fun is that a lot of the developers who have been focused on other things in the last couple weeks or months are now able to refocus on that. I think Bob, who joins often, is sort of leading up a lot of the tool set issues, and we're trying to add to his team specifically to increase the velocity on that team. I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at what's in the next couple weeks for that, but I would think that we could dang it, there's this bug around me. I would think that we could we should get that. And actually, that's something that I'd like to start doing more often, is posting here's what you can expect in the coming month in the IDE. Here's what you can expect in the coming month in the Android app. I think as we get better process around those things with people like Gilbert, we really built out more of our product management team in the last half a year. In fact, I think we hired 3 product managers in the last 3 months. And I think that's going to really help both internal and external communication, and sort of my job to, sort of connect with them frequently and get that stuff conveyed to the community. So I'll do a better job on that, especially around tool and IDE improvements, but I think around everything as well. I would encourage you to start a IDE improvements thread on the community site, because I really would love to see what the community wants. We can look at it.
Mock-ups too, or what?
Well, we've got a good sense of what we would want, but again, sometimes we might focus on something that's not as important to most people. So I want to make sure we're focusing on the right things first.
Well, it'd be really nice if you'd share that vision, and then we could communicate our feedback on it too.
Right.
I'm more than happy to put my 2 cents in, as you know.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot for that. So yeah, we'll definitely share whatever vision that we have on there. I'll look in Jira tomorrow and see what I can pull.
Yeah. I'll let people ask questions. I got a whole list of them. So.
Well, don't be quiet. You know, let's see if there's anything else.
I want to make sure everybody's got a chance to ask.
Tyler, be sure to bring anything that you're seeing in the chat up to attention if it seems like it'd be good for other people, just so we can voice that. Sometimes people aren't following along in the chat, or it goes really fast.
I want to hear out some of the projects you guys are working on. That's something that we should always highlight in these calls. Well, what are things that you're working on, you would like to work on, things like that?
Well, I can tell you there's 2 main projects I'm working on in my spare time, usually during Vikings preseason football games. The one is the Ubi integration, actually treating it as a device type. And I have the OAuth functioning, working there and working with their API. So now we have 5 sensors that can be integrated into SmartThings, including air pressure and sound level. And I haven't seen any other devices that actually provide those 2 values. So that's
what is this again?
So you're familiar with the Ubi, the Ubi.com?
The little speaker thing, or the voice control?
Size, yeah. It's an Android computer inside of it with a speaker, and basically just hijacked OK Google to OK Ubi.
Okay.
Waited for mine to respond. I thought I muted it. It did. But inside of it, they've got a humidity sensor, a temperature sensor, I can't remember all of them. But I got them last week to expose their API to those devices. So in one request, I can get all of those.
Nice.
I've got a smart app that will detect the UBI through OAuth 2, and then populate a device type that will then be allowed to be pulled or wired up to anything for those recognized capabilities. So it works. Like I've got an Eon multi-sensor here, your guys' multi-sensors, both of which are incredibly unreliable when it comes to temperature, and it sounds like you guys might be making some improvements there. I've logged every 10 minutes temperatures in rooms, and the results are literally all over the board. I'm sure you're aware of it, but external heat around it, i.e. light source or IR heat, is dramatically impacting your temperature sensors. But I'm glad you got the calibration in there. I had written that a while back to be able to calibrate those. But humidity, the pressure sensor is really, that can actually detect differences of pressure in a room. So it's a far more accurate way of finding motion. So that's exciting. And then the sound level is another one that is really exciting to see.
Nice.
So hopefully get that out.
Yeah.
And then the other big one is my Control 4 integration, but that's going to take a lot of work. Unless, of course, you're willing to allow raw sockets from the local hub. Hint, hint.
There's more of those now. Yeah, I don't know enough about that yet. Or with Hub 2, what it's going to look like either.
How about anyone else? Is there anyone working on any interesting projects? I just worked on the clapper yesterday, so I was able to recreate the clapper using an Arduino shield, which I will share with the community in the next few days once I kind of clean up my code.
Yeah, it's cool.
I have a demo on online. I'll share with you guys.
All right, yeah, Tyler is talking about the temperature offset. Yeah, I mean, but the only problem with that is that's only useful if the temperatures are consistently off in one direction. Hopefully, that'll solve some people, many people's use cases. But I've heard from other people that they will vary in both directions sometimes. So we'll see. The new temperature sensing in all the new devices we're hoping is going to be more solid and won't require that offset, but it'll be available.
I have a question about when you guys release new code, either on the back-end system or on the hub, or any of the, I guess apps would be helpful too. Is there any like release notes or any way of finding out what actually has been added as, you know, new releases are out or pushed out?
We don't do a great job of communicating release notes on like platform builds, and I think that is something that we should definitely do, whether or not it's just even posting on the community site somewhere or something, or email or whatever it is. But we do release notes for the iOS and Android device releases. They're usually in the App Store. They don't get down specifically to like sometimes like which minute bug is squashed, but in the bigger bug cases they will call them out. But yeah, I mean, I think like as far as like when we release new code to the cloud platform, that would be a great place where we could give some more transparency and visibility. And it's not that we're like not trying to be transparent, it's mostly like we just don't like think of it, or it's not a part of our process yet to like share that. But that'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think
kind of actually.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that kind of lead into a second question. Was I've been waited with bated breath for the Z-Wave barrier operator command class. I guess it's been in the works for quite a while, and just was kind of curious if that's gonna happen soon or not.
Ben, do you have any on that? I haven't heard about that one. I don't know if we're actively working on that specific one.
I'm going to make sure that a cloud engineer is on the call all the time. I put the call out quite late today for people to join, but I can make sure that happens. To like questions like that, there'll be some at least a better, more informed answer, because I don't have one for you at that level of the command class operator type stuff.
Yeah, and I think that one is probably going to be a firmware change on our hub, which we're trying to streamline as well. So even if we were to actively work on it, it does take us a little bit of time to actually push out those firmwares to the hubs. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be within the next few weeks. So I will bring that up when we have a meeting on that.
Yeah, I just been kind of bugging Ermin and a few people every once in a while. It's been probably 3-4 months I've been kind of asking about it.
All right.
Is it the Z-Wave secure barrier?
Yeah, it is a secure command class.
Okay. I need to look into it so I have a little more knowledge.
You guys said that you're pushing out a new device type for the multi-sensors for the temperature offset?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Will that also include decimal support for temperature? I mean, I know the device reports the temperature. Will it at least round properly?
Oh.
So
I don't know.
72.9 won't show 72 degrees. It'll show 73.
Well, we can ask about that and where it is. I know that there's a ticket for that specific thing as well.
Okay. Well, I posted a fix to it, in the community forums, as well as the offset about a month ago. So it's not a hard thing to fix. It would just be nice if the value tiles would actually support decimal inputs rather than integer.
All right. Sounds like there is a ticket that's being actively worked on right now around that. So maybe they're using your code. Maybe we'll have to like credit you in it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay.
I do see a ticket for it.
Yeah, my past experience though with those temperature sensors is usually plus or minus a degree of error in them at least.
Yeah, it's up to 6 degrees that I've seen.
Yep, and that's where the offset is coming in this week, so that if you do consistently find it, rather than trying to replace it, and find like something that's like more accurate, you can just create that offset if it's always in one direction. It's always warm or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's a calibration issue. I'm talking about the error of the actual sensor itself. So getting tenths of degrees is going to be highly inaccurate.
Not when you want to detect changes. I mean, when you're trying to detect a change between 72 and 73, right now the device type that's default will report 72 all the way up to 0.9. 72.9 is still reported as 72 degrees. That's an accuracy of code, not an accuracy of the device. The device is actually reporting milliamps or millivolts. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it is. And that's pretty accurate. It's just how dumb the code is in interpreting the actual Fahrenheit value. Divide by 10, you get the Celsius value, and you got to get Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah, but still, I'm saying the accuracy is going to be way off. Because I've played with these for a long time, and depending on where the temperature is in the range of the sensor, there'll be higher and lower errors depending on what temperature it's reading. So unless you have a set of calibration values at different ranges, you're never going to get accurate values across the whole range of the sensor.
Yeah, but like Patrick said, all you have to do is add 0.5 to the code and round it.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. These sensors are really cheap sensors for measuring temperature. But the more you have, the more you get across that. You know, I like monitoring all the temperature in my house. I've got calibration sensors that can tell me exactly what the temperature is. You know, they're $50 to $100 temperature sensors. The reality is it's consistently off. The only thing that will impact it is external heat sources close to the sensor. You know, if you're pulling the device frequency, you'll see an increase in the heat putting off by the device that will throw it off. But it's off consistently, which is good.
Ben, you're muted right now.
I'm muted?
I was hitting
No,
I was hitting spacebar, but I guess my cursor was in the chat thing.
Done that.
You know, we're at the hour, but I don't want to cut off anyone else if they have questions yet. So if there are still questions, I'm totally willing to hang out a while and answer them. I know that Taryn posted one. Did someone answer that yet, Taryn?
I just did the same thing with the spacebar in the chat. Not yet. I think I was hoping if you know the timeline for the Harmony app, because I know you talked about it recently, but nobody asked. I was so sad I wasn't on that call to ask when you guys were thinking.
Yeah, I'm actually working on that project directly. I don't know how much I can disclose because Logitech is doing things on their end as well too. But expect an integration on both sides where one, you can control things on the Harmony end using SmartThings and vice versa, where Harmony Remote can control your devices. Until Logitech has their PR thing, I can't disclose too much more, but it's an interesting integration that I think in the very beginning will have some limitations just because this is going to be our first rev. But moving forward, it gives us a lot of capabilities of being able to control your entire house from multiple platforms and having them talk to each other.
Yeah, no, I saw one of the surveys they sent out, and it looked like they were moving into the home hub world based on the contents of the survey. So I'm hoping that's just the integration with you guys. I was like, wait a second, this is more than just my home theater system.
They are. I mean, they've already have integration with Philips Hue, so you can control your Hue with it. You can control your Sonos, what we talked to already. I think more and more they're going to be controlling a lot more home devices, but I think they're going to be leveraging other platforms to do more sophisticated stuff. But they want to be able to at least send commands to these other platforms. So I think it's a good match that's beneficial to a lot of us.
I'm really excited.
Yeah,
so, I agree.
You don't have to hold your breath too long. It's coming out rather soon.
That's exactly what I want to hear. Thank you, Gilbert. And I think Tyler got my other question. I guess it's just a matter of And the GE bulb, just when you guys and Urban get your hands on one.
Yeah,
So.
if you can bribe Ermin to do some things, to get him moving,
That's what I want
so
to
he
know.
can work 24 hours around the clock. we definitely need. We're in the midst of hiring more engineers because we definitely have a big backlog of things from the community, from outside that we definitely want to do and we want to target. But we also ask the community to help out whenever they can if they have special expertise in certain areas. We find that the open platform really allows us to grow really fast, and I think a lot of the good integrations actually come out from you guys, the community. So continue to chuck on those and really help us out as we're kind of ramping up our engineering team.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, we're a 54-person company today, and I would imagine we will be at least double that in second quarter of next year. We're trying to hire a lot of people. It could even be faster, but we realistically know that it's hard to find that many good people and onboard them in that quick a time frame. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate the community really being patient as we're kind of working through some of these things. I know that sometimes you guys post submissions on new device types and you want to move it out to the public a lot sooner, and we haven't been able to respond quick enough on those. And so apologies on that, but we're trying our best to really push things forward, and we really appreciate all the help that everybody has done.
No, obviously I work for a small organization too, so I totally understand what the boat you guys are in. I think you guys do a tremendous job based on the number of people you have. I'm always amazed at how quickly you guys can put out quality stuff, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And maybe we can get Tyler to get off chat and go on mic someday.
So I got another question. I think I posted the forums and got like 0 response. But is there any internal development around actually doing some offline IDE support where we're not using the limitations of the cloud-based IDE that we can actually? I mean, the biggest problem I'm having right now is the online IDE is so limited when you're actually trying to debug and integrate with third-party websites here.
So I think on that note, this was mentioned at the workshop that we had in SF, and this has been something that you guys have been asking for. There's no development on it right now, but also given the capabilities of our current IDE, I don't see that moving offline because, like, for instance, the simulator we have on the IDE will be kind of hard for us to replicate on an offline mode.
Sure.
But without simulation, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say we have done a spike on like an Eclipse plugin, and I think that there is a good opportunity for doing some things like even just bundles for TextMate or whatever else, so you can get some simple code completion and whatever else. But I do think like the bulk of our energies in that realm will still probably be online just because of the simulator and because we believe that that's pretty valuable for developing in SmartThings. But I saw your thread. I didn't respond because I didn't have anything, great to say about it. But if you have specifics that you'd want, like some specific things you miss, like Test Suite probably is one of them. Maybe there's something
knowing what's restricted. The problem is I'm running into things like not being able to do standard regex matches. That doesn't make any sense why I can't do a regex match. But you guys must have some sort of cloud-based computing restriction because those could get pretty, disk intensive or processor intensive. But I'm just running into so many limitations within, there's the Groovy language, there's Java, but ultimately you guys have locked this thing down to the point in which, if you look at the hack job I had to do just to get a screen scrape off of a web page that was not debugging properly, I was literally blind trying to figure this out. I moved to an offline IDE so I could actually see the page results, so I could actually navigate the DOM and figure out where the heck the element I was looking for was. But every step of the way, I kept running into this is restricted, this is restricted, this is restricted. But yet I've got no reference as to what is actually restricted versus me just having bad code. Muted. Hi, Ben.
So yeah, partly
Well, you got slapped in the face or
documentation, partly documentation problem, and then also like a tool problem. I think that you've got inherent limitations in a browser-based IDE, and even if we went like crazy, because I've seen some really good like web-based IDEs now that are starting to happen, but even if we went crazy, like how much development time do we really want to put into those versus letting people use their preferred platform and then perhaps running a simulator alongside somehow. I don't know exactly how that would happen, but we could look into things like that.
I think there was also some really interesting discussion this week around a block-based pseudo IDE where you aren't actually writing code. You're just wiring up inputs and outputs visually. Have you guys given any further consideration to something like that for writing smart apps versus device types?
Yeah, I mean, we want to get a rule builder. We don't know that it'll be like a graphical rule builder per se, like Blockly was the example I gave, and we did a few weeks of development on Blockly to see where we could get at. I'm a big proponent of that because I'm not truly like a developer. I can't sit down and write something from scratch. I can, hack things together. I do want a rule builder to like help myself write apps. And I think that's just been a priority issue. We had looked at it first as like an input into the phone or another way of doing it in the phone. I think setting up any of these configurations within a mobile device is difficult. And I think that a web-based rule builder might make more sense. And so we've been really looking at that. But yeah, again, which is just priorities and not something that we've like put at the forefront for the last few months of iteration.
All right, now I got a real serious question. Are those shirts available in the store?
That's a good place to put it.
I keep pushing the marketing team to put them in the store, and I think that the main issue is just getting them in our warehouse so that it's easy for them to be shipped out. But I think like if you want one or anyone on these calls, we should just send them to you. So if anyone wants these, I'll take Patrick. If anyone else wants them, just email me.
I want the ones that
Yves wants one.
says powered by Samsung. That's the important one.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll never have those.
I think the more fitting one is the one that we gave out for the developer community or the workshop. If we have some of those. You're muted again.
They're much less of a billboard though for SmartThings. But yeah, we can look at those.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that Patrick, you were a tortured Vikings fan, same as me. So I could we have a purple one in this too.
Oh yeah.
So
as long as it doesn't have the number 4 on it. Sorry, that's a bad joke. The Vikings fans, if you're truly a Vikings fans, we could win a Super Bowl someday. And you know what the reaction of a Viking fan would be? Screw them, they can't do it next year. That's
all right. Well, that's a good note to end on right there. That's what I was waiting for. So again, give feedback on these on particular topics you'd like us to discuss. As soon as we get regular participation up into the 20s or whatever else, I'm considering making this more regular. I think part of it is the non-regular schedule, and people forget the every other week thing. And so if we did it just an hour a week, I'm loath to sort of bite that off. But we're getting more resources. In fact, we just hired another developer evangelist who starts on Monday, and so I think communications with the community will start to become more frequent and better, not only reliant upon me and a few others that are around here. So I think it'll be good. So yeah, feedback is welcome, either build@smartthings.com or ben@smartthings.com or on the community site itself.
Feel free to tag any of us that you want input on. I think Ben did that last time, that he wanted me to chime in on something. So if you guys want us, call us out on things, because it does get a little noisy on the community forums, and if we don't check it on a regular basis, things can get lost in there. So if there's something that you want us to tend to, let us know.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for coming for sure. And I will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good night. Bye.
Thanks.